Good morning, everybody. Hey, welcome out to the webinar this morning. I'm Shade Ferre. I think I've got Stephen Swenson here, right? You can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you good. I'm excited to be here this morning and excited to talk about tax lien and deed investing.
Perfect. Oh, and also, so everybody knows, as we go throughout the webinar, while one of us is talking, the other one can be answering questions and things. So if you have any kind of questions, feel free to ask those down in the chat section or the question section, and we'll see if we can get those answered for you as we go throughout the webinar.
Yeah, I mean, usually the more questions we get, the better the webinar is. And so, because we can help direct things to you guys a little bit as we go throughout the subjects, you guys may have questions that you don't understand. If we're not able to get to all your questions, then after the webinar, we can go back and respond to any ones we weren't able to get to individually. So, today we're going to be talking about uh, tax liens and deeds. And so before we get started, we want to let you know a little bit about who we are. Some of you guys may not have, this may be the first time going on a webinar. Some of you may have been on webinars in the past. But me and Shade started tax sale investing in the early 2000s. In fact, I attended my first tax sale as a brand new real estate agent back in around 1999, 2000. And so in 2007, me and Shade started our own training company, and essentially it was A+ rated BBB with the BBB company that we held for over a decade. And Shade, do you want to kind of go into a little bit about our history?
Yeah, we started with tax liens and deeds right around the time where the internet, I guess, was becoming a major factor with investing. And so, as we created the program, internet-based investing was sort of what we were focused on and what we specialized in. But over that time, we ended up teaching tens of thousands of people from just about every part of the United States. What we were essentially doing was we were private labeling training materials to large seminar companies. Some of the biggest seminar companies out there would sell our training at the different seminars that they provided. But we always wanted to be able to provide training for a lower price, and so it wasn't too long ago that we struck out on our own, decided to kind of cut out the middleman, and so that we could offer the training directly to people, which meant that we could lower the price dramatically. So we could offer the same quality of training, but for a lot lower price, and that way our members weren't spending all of their money on the training rather than trying to use their money to invest and to make money. So that was kind of what was most important to us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we kind of have a unique approach when it comes to tax lien and deed training is, we try to make sure that our investors and students that we work with are taken care of, that they understand this strategy. And so in finally deciding to just really quit working with the seminar companies and taking our program directly to the public through our websites and through our training, we just we feel like we can actually control what happens with the student success. We'll have a hand and be able to help them go through that process, and they'll be able to do it for really a discount, just really a fraction of the cost that you would find through one of the big seminar providers. So as far as
I think it's worth saying too. Just I think that we've probably created more successful tax sale investors than anybody else by a long shot. So many of our students have bought stuff. I was just thinking about it. We've even found our student success stories on other people's websites because they don't have their own success stories. So we have tons and tons of success stories. If you're looking to do tax sale investing, I think that we definitely have the most straightforward and easy instructions for people to follow, and I think the best advice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we started creating success stories really in the early 2000s. So, once we started learning about it, then we started working with the seminar companies, and eventually we started and created our own product. So we used to work as coaches and things like that. As far as what we're going to be going over today, we have a ton of information, so we're going to try to get through it as quickly as possible so that we have a little bit of time at the end to go online and look at some of the properties that are available right now online. So we're going to talk about the property tax cycle. We're going to go over what is a tax lien, a deed, And something me and Shade have referred to for over a decade is redemption deeds. Essentially, that's a different type of tax sale system we're going to talk about. We're also going to go over really the four big buying types. These are the ways that you purchase tax liens and deeds, either through a live auction, an online auction, through what we call over-the-counter investing, and we'll get in and explain what that is. And then something that's a little bit new, it's something called bank-owned tax liens. These are actually tax liens that were purchased by many of these big, large banks and hedge funds, and they sit on the tax liens for several years. We'll go into how you're able to purchase these tax liens right at the end of foreclosure, something completely unique. And then hopefully, if we get some time, we'll be able to go look at some live properties and some live auctions. So if that sounds like a good plan, we'll go ahead and get started. As far as the property tax cycle, essentially what happens is every single property owner has property taxes, and they pay those property taxes to the county government. Usually it's going to be through the county. Sometimes it can be through cities and towns, but every single piece of real estate has property taxes, and those property taxes are due to the county government. Now, what that property tax money does is it goes to pay for all of the services that we see when we're talking about fire, schools, police, any type of roads, anything like that is going to be done and paid through property tax. And so education is a huge one. In fact, that covers a huge budget. And so they desperately need this money to be able to pay the budget for all of these different services. Now, Shade, do you want to explain what happens if the property owner doesn't pay their property taxes?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, if you think about it, we all know that if you don't pay your property taxes, there will be consequences. Taxes are one of those things that you can't escape, and property taxes are the same way. That's actually based on state law. State law is what gives your county the power to tax you, and it also gives the county the power to I guess, execute steps to make sure that it happens. And so, if the county, if somebody doesn't pay their property taxes, I mean, let's say even 10% of the people in the county are late with their property taxes, which could easily happen. Just that number alone would create a huge problem for the county because they have this money going out for those services that they're constantly funding. So the county has to have a good way of they have to have a good way of forcing people to pay. They have to have a good system in place here to allow it to be enforced because they need the money now, and so therefore they have to have a system to collect the money now. And let's see here. Now, essentially, when you're going to pay your property taxes, the county knows exactly how much money they need. They know how much they need, because they're basing it on your home's value, which is part of it. Part of it is based on your the assessed value of your property. Then the other part of it is your property tax rate. So they know exactly how much money they need, and doing so, they also know if certain people are delinquent with their taxes, they know about what they need to do in order to make sure those taxes get paid. And that's really where the systems come in place here. The tax lien system, the tax deed system, they are enforcement systems for the property taxes. So basically, the county, if somebody's late with their property taxes, that's where some of these things come into play, where they start. So for instance, like tax liens. If you're late on your property taxes, then the county will place a lien against the property, and that's the first step in the county recovering that money.
Yeah, absolutely. The county needs to collect the property taxes, and so that's the reason this tax sale system was created. This is not something that's new. This is something that's been around for hundreds of years, and tax liens have at least been around for probably 50 or 60 years. So this is something that's been done through the counties, since the days of the Wild West and Wyatt Earp. That was part of his responsibility as the sheriff, was to foreclose on people for delinquent property taxes. And so this is really their collection method. It allows them to function, and these tax sale auctions, like Shade mentioned, the tax lien sale helps to recoup the tax and is really their collection method. This is the way that county is able to collect on the property tax, and this is really where they get all of their money from. So as far as a tax lien, A lien is a claim against an asset filed by a government taxing authority against a delinquent taxpayer. And there's really three different tax sale types that we talked about in the beginning. We have tax liens, we have tax deeds, and we also have something we call redemption deeds. And we're going to go through and talk about each one of these. And so as far as tax lien certificates, they're the enforcement method the county uses, or a certain type of enforcement method the county uses to collect property taxes. So what a tax lien is it's a lien against real property. Now this tax lien, it has essentially foreclosure rights. This lien is really all powerful. The property owner can't do anything with their property. They can't sell the property. They can't refinance it. They can't transfer it into another owner's name until they pay off those tax lien certificates. And so what that does is that tax lien has really, really a power on that property. But what it allows this county to do is to offer these tax liens to investors at a tax lien sale. So investors can come in and purchase these tax liens, and what makes these tax liens nice is not only is the property collateral for the tax lien certificate, but those tax liens guarantee us an interest rate return. So when we're looking at tax lien certificate investing, it can range anywhere from usually about 10% on the low end, 12%, all the way up to 18 to 24%. So with tax lien certificates, you have this ability to earn a high interest rate return that's completely guaranteed by property.
Yeah, really, it's a pretty ingenious system if you think about it. The way that they have it set up so that the county basically has the power to pursue foreclosure. It's also what forces people to pay their property taxes because they know ultimately that they could lose their property if they don't pay it off. But the tax lien itself, it's kind of neat the way that they create an investment opportunity for investors, and that investment is incredibly secure because of the qualities it possesses. It's attached to real estate, which you can foreclose on. It provides a lot of security, but if you think about it, even an interest rate of 10 to 18%, where can you really find that anywhere else? I think people would, well, with most investments, I think if you could do anything close to that, people would be ecstatic. So to be able to do 10 to 18% consistently, safely, is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you go to the auction or you purchase one of these tax lien certificates over the counter or one of these bank-owned tax liens, essentially two things happen when that tax lien is purchased or when it was originally offered at the auction. Number one, the tax lien starts to earn interest. So when we're talking about an 18% interest rate, the interest rate is going to start earning at 1.5% a month. So as soon as you purchase that tax lien certificate, it's automatically earning you interest rate. And number two, the redemption period begins. So each state is going to have a redemption period or a certain time frame where the property owner has to pay you back. This is something we call the redemption period, is known as the redemption period. So when you purchase that tax lien certificate, let's say you purchase a tax lien in Florida, that tax lien, as soon as you purchase it at the auction, at the day of sale, it's going to start earning interest, and it's also going to start that redemption period. So in Texas, it's 2 years. So essentially, once you purchase that tax lien, within a 2-year period of time, you'll have the opportunity to foreclose on it. Now, one thing that's nice is when you purchase something like an over-the-counter lien, you're purchasing that tax lien already into the redemption period. So essentially, when we're talking about the tax sale cycle, the only thing you need to remember is, first of all, that tax lien, when it was issued, it's going to start earning an interest rate return, and also that's when the redemption period is going to start. Now, why it's important to know when the redemption period starts is that's going to let you know when you're going to need to foreclose on the property, or when you at least first have the chance to foreclose on the property. So after purchasing the lien, one or two things are going to happen. Shay, do you want to go ahead and go over that?
Yeah, and it's part of what we love about tax liens is because they're incredibly simple. The two different possible scenarios here are both dependent on the property owner, what the property owner does, and it comes down to whether or not they pay their property taxes to the county or they don't. That's really what it comes down to all the time, and the vast majority of the time people end up paying their property taxes to the county. What ends up happening though once the property taxes are paid. So if property owner here ends up paying the county what he owes in delinquent taxes, then what the county will do is they will cut a check to the investor for the initial amount that they invested plus the interest rate return that they've earned up to that point. So at that 18% annual rate, if it was 6 months, you would earn half of that, which would be about 9%. So if it was $1,000 lien, you would get a check back for $1,090. The other option, though, is that the property owner doesn't pay. And if that's the case, the lien that you have has foreclosure abilities or foreclosure rights once the redemption period passes. So, for instance, in Florida, after that 2-year time period passes, that lien can actually be used to foreclose on the property. And sometimes, once you try to foreclose on the property, it will end up redeeming. Like I said, the vast majority of them redeem because that's kind of how the system is designed. But if they don't, then you foreclose on the property and you become the new property owner. So they have an incredible level of security because really there are only those two possible outcomes with the investment.
Yeah, I mean, with tax lien investing, you're essentially looking at the property itself. I mean, when you're purchasing a tax lien, the property itself is collateral for that lien. So when you're purchasing a tax lien, it's usually going to be 1 to maybe on a very high level 3 to 5% of the property's value. Usually it's about 1 or 2%. So if you're looking at $100,000 home, it may be $1,000 or $2,000 for that tax lien certificate, and that tax lien has foreclosure rights on the property. This is the reason it's such a safe investment, is because before you even start investing, you know exactly what you're going to earn, at least as far as a month period. So you could purchase that tax lien at the auction, and the homeowner may redeem it after 6 months. And after 6 months, they're going to send you a check. You're going to get back your money and your interest, and you can reinvest that money into a new tax lien certificate. So your money is always earning the very possible highest interest rate return it possibly can. And then if the property owner doesn't foreclose, I mean, if the property owner doesn't pay you back and redeem, then you have the opportunity to foreclose on that property and essentially become the property's owner. So really two things happen. This first scenario, the owner can pay the delinquent taxes, as Shade mentioned, and the county is going to cut us a check. And then the second scenario is that we're going to get the property for the delinquent taxes. So if you've heard, and I'm sure you have, if back in the day they had an infomercial running all the time that talked about buying homes for pennies on the dollar. That's where essentially they're coming up with that or they're looking at that is essentially because that tax lien is such a small amount to the property's value.
And also, there's a quick question somebody has about in Florida. In Florida, the certificate holder does not have the right to foreclose per your info. So I think we should probably explain Florida a little bit because they're a little bit different. I guess if somebody already kind of understands how certain things work, Florida is a little bit different from some other states. In that, well, if you want to go ahead, Steve, you can kind of tell them about it.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Florida, you're really just looking at the county doing the foreclosure for you. So it's going to be sent to a deed sale. So that's something that's common. That's kind of the reason why we do and help our students do a lot of investing in Florida, is because you're not going to have to do the foreclosure yourself. That's going to be done through the county. So when you're looking at the foreclosure process and you're breaking down the foreclosure process, there's going to be about half the states in the United States that are these tax lien states. And so, some of those tax lien states, you're going to do the foreclosure and then you automatically get the property. And in a state like Florida, you're going to go ahead and fill out what's called a deed application with the county. And then the county does the foreclosure and puts it up at a tax deed sale. So once that property goes to a tax deed sale, somebody's going to have the opportunity to buy it, a tax deed investor. Now, if they buy it at the sale, when that deed investor pays that for that tax deed, they're essentially going to pay you off your money and your interest rate return. Now, what's nice about the foreclosure process in Florida is when you do that tax deed foreclosure, you're going to automatically be guaranteed 18%. 18% on your money. So you're going to be able to earn 18% on that money the entire time you're going through that foreclosure process. And essentially, all the money that you spend, you're going to earn 18% guaranteed on it. So that's one thing that's nice about that Florida is you're not going to have to do that foreclosure yourself. Now, you're not going to have as high a chance of getting the property because if it doesn't sell at the deed sale, then you can go ahead and the property can become yours or will become yours. But unless you're in other states like Colorado or New Jersey or Arizona, in some of those states the county will help you. In some of the states you're going to do the foreclosure, but either way, in those scenarios you're automatically going to get the property. What Florida does is it makes it easy for investors that don't want to have to go through the process of foreclosure on their own.
Yeah, I think the lien still definitely has the power to push foreclosure there. But it is nice having the county do that self-executing foreclosure because it simplifies everything. And really, the vast majority of the time, the reality of it is, if property is mostly what you're after, then yeah, like Steve said with liens, like the majority of them are going to end up redeeming. You can try to increase your chances of foreclosure, but if property's primarily what you're after, then we would probably send you in a different direction. If you just already know that's what you're after. A lot of people invest in liens to get that high interest rate return on such a safe investment, and they like the idea that they still might have the chance to acquire the property.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really going to depend on the individual investors, personal investment goals and their strategies. So, I mean, if you're looking for tax deeds, then just why not invest at the tax deed sales in Florida? Because that's where you'll get the opportunity to acquire those properties. So as far as the interest rate returns, that interest rate is going to be earned over an annual basis. So if we're looking at 18% interest rate, it's going to be broken up over 12 months. So, you're not going to automatically earn 18% with most of the tax liens when you purchase it. Now, that's kind of where the redemption needs get into, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Uh, and then, of course, just a couple of points about the redemption period. That's essentially the time frame that you're going to have to foreclose. And every state's going to have laws that dictate what that time frame is. So it's not going to be the same in every state. It's going to depend on those state laws, and it can range anywhere from 1 year up to 5 years in a state like Wyoming. But usually the redemption periods are going to be about 2 years. Is kind of the general, sometimes about 3 years. So what are tax deeds? Well, Shay, do you want to talk a little bit about what are tax deeds?
Yeah, absolutely. I think tax deeds are kind of the other side of tax liens, meaning that Steve mentioned that about half of the states in the United States that they use the tax lien system. Well, about the other half of them use a tax deed system. And really, the objective is the same with tax deeds. The county is still just after the delinquent money that's owed. But what the county does instead that's a little bit different in a tax deed state is they simply wait for a redemption period, to pass. So that redemption period might be 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is, based on the state statutes that Steve talked about. Once that redemption period comes to an end, the county has the power to foreclose on the property in a tax deed state. So what will happen there is the county will initiate that foreclosure process. And in that process, some properties will redeem, many properties will redeem, but ones that don't redeem and end up going through the foreclosure process, the county's still primarily just interested in collecting the money that's owed to them. So what they'll do is they'll hold a tax sale, a public auction where they'll sell off these properties that they've just foreclosed on due to delinquent property taxes. And the way the county does it is they'll have the opening bid consist of everything that's owed in delinquent taxes, penalties, and fees. So as soon as the county gets an initial opening bid, they're essentially collecting the money that's owed to them. They don't have any personal interest in the property. Not like other types of foreclosures, like a bank foreclosure, where you still have a bank that essentially owns it and they don't want to lose money on it. Well, with a tax deed, it's totally different because once the county collects that opening bid amount, and that might be as little as 10% of what the property is worth, maybe 15% of what the property is worth, once that opening bid amount is collected, anything beyond that that it sells for doesn't really matter to the county because they don't have a personal interest in it. So what that means is that tax deeds are about the only real estate method, buying method you can use where you can pick up properties for this kind of a discount, where you can pick up properties for, for 15, 20% of what they're worth, 30% of what they're worth. You can't find that in other forms of real estate investing because somebody always has a personal interest in the property. But with a system like this and like tax deeds per se, the county doesn't have that personal interest, but they're still selling off those properties. So if you're interested in property acquisition, tax deeds are an amazing way to go because you're looking at properties that have just been foreclosed on and you can pick them up for the lowest possible prices. And so you have the chance to pick up properties that are worth a lot for just a fraction of what their actual value is.
Yeah, and I mean that's such a great point, Shade, is that personal interest. The county doesn't have that personal interest in it. So, when we're talking about tax deeds, it's really just going to be a combination of the delinquent years. So, if we're looking at, let's use that same example, a $100,000 home with $1,000 tax lien, and let's say it has that particular state has a 3-year period. So they were delinquent for 3 years. So the opening bid would essentially be $3,000 plus any taxes and fees and cost to conduct the auction. So let's say it starts at $4,000 because now the county has $1,000 worth of fees that they're owed and all that kind of stuff. So that opening bid's going to start at $4,000, and you'll have a chance to bid on that property. And so you're going to be bidding just against the other investors there. So unlike a mortgage foreclosure or some other type of foreclosure where that property, is essentially starting at a good portion or for a good amount of its value. With tax deeds, these properties are generally going to be starting at anywhere between 10 to 15%. Sometimes they can go a little bit higher than that depending on the individual state, but that's in most of the states that we work at, that's kind of where those opening bids are going to start. And sometimes it'll start as little as 5%. So you'll look at a $100,000 home that's going to start at 3 to 5 grand. So that is possible. Now, of course, what that price is or what that price ends up selling for is going to be dependent on the individual auctions. But when we're looking at tax deeds, we're looking to acquire the property anywhere between 5 to 50% of its value. If it goes above that, we're going to usually recommend letting that property go and bidding at the next tax sale. With the investors that we work with, we want to be able to have them get property and get deals for the ultimate possible lowest price. And so because of that, we're going to be willing to let as many deals go until we're able to get those right properties at the right price. And that may mean that we may let properties go that we're really attached to, that we really would like to be able to acquire. But with tax deeds, we're going to go ahead and kind of go through the process, the tax deed cycle really. And we've already kind of talked about it. What the states do is they give these counties the power to foreclose. Shay, did you have something?
Yeah, it's essentially that. Yeah, well, it's essentially that foreclosure power that really differentiates, the states, I think, in that a lot of your tax lien states, the county doesn't really ever foreclose on properties. They rely on the investors to do that, that buy the liens. But in those tax deed states, when the counties have that power to do that, it enables the county to actually pursue the funds that are owed to them. So you see sometimes a lot of counties that'll foreclose on some of these older properties so that they can offer them up at auction because the county wants to have good property owners owning property that will pay property taxes, so that everybody's kind of paying their fair share. It doesn't do them any good if they have certain properties that never get paid.
Yeah, I mean that's the primary county's motivation is to have the properties owned, to have somebody paying on those properties, and also to have those properties upkept. It does the county no good, it does the area no good to have property sitting, vacant or run down or anything like that. So it's in everyone's best interest to be able to sell off these properties. Now, the amount that gets overbid, and this is something to kind of think about as far as the property owner, let's say that property starts at $5,000 and ends up selling for $15,000. That additional $10,000 is what we call an overbid, and so that additional money is able to be paid back to the property owner. The property owner can essentially, contact the county and get that money back, and that's the strategy of overages. We're not going to talk about overages much in this conversation or in today's topic, but that's where that idea of overages comes from, is helping the property owner get that money back, and then be able to make a commission or make a percentage of that money. That's kind of the idea behind overages. So besides tax deeds and tax liens, there's a handful of states that are what we call redemption deeds. Essentially what a redemption deed is, it's similar to a tax lien and it's similar to a tax deed, but they're really a hybrid of both. Redemption deeds are tax deeds with a redemption period. So, when we talk about redemption deeds, we're usually talking about states like Texas and Georgia. Now, what makes redemption deeds nice, or kind of the way that redemption deeds works, is when you're purchasing a tax deed, or you're attending a sale in Texas, you're essentially buying the property. You're going to be bidding up the price of the property just like you would with a tax deed. With the way the tax deeds are bid up is like any type of auction. Starts at the lowest opening bid and then goes up from there. Redemption deeds are going to be the same way. So unlike a tax lien certificate where you're bidding down the interest rate, with a redemption deed, though that interest rate is essentially guaranteed. It's more of a penalty. So regardless if the homeowner or the property owner redeems, a week later or 6 months later, you're going to make a 20% return on your money. You're going to make a 25% return on your money. So that's what makes redemption deeds nice, is that you're going to get that full redemption period back if the property owner redeems. But with redemption deeds, you're going to have a lot better chance of getting the property. So when we're looking at tax lien certificates, about 95, if we're, statistics over nationwide, about 95% of tax liens are going to redeem. So usually you're only going to get a property about 5% of the time. With redemption deeds, that's going to highly increase it, because essentially you've already purchased that property. In fact, when you purchase a property in Texas, or you go to the sale and bid on one of these properties and win it, you're going to have ownership rights to that property. Essentially, you're going to, get a tax deed on the property. The county just isn't going to record that deed, and that property owner still has that redemption period or time frame to pay you back, but they're going to be forced to pay you that full percent penalty. So, if you are paid back, then it's going to essentially be that full highest interest rate return. It's not going to be separated annually like a tax lien certificate. So you're not going to be earning 1.5% per month. Regardless of when that property owner redeems, you're going to go ahead and get that full interest rate return. Now, as far as Texas, they have two different redemption periods for any homestead property. So this has to be the property owner's only home. This has to essentially be their homestead. With the homestead properties in Texas, they have a 2-year redemption period. So it's a longer time frame. But for any other type of property besides a homestead and farmland, they also want to give, they don't want farmers to lose their property after 6 months of being delinquent. Any other type of property, commercial, rental, a second home, vacation home, land, lots, anything like that is only going to have a 6-month redemption period. So the chances of that property paying that back are going to be pretty slim, because not only are they going to have to pay you back the money that you put into it, but they're also going to have to pay that overbid amount as well. So if we're looking at a $100,000 property that started at $10,000, and let's say it bid up to $20,000, the property owner would essentially have to pay $20,000 plus a 25% penalty per year. So if it was a homestead property, essentially you could earn 25% penalty for the first year, 25% penalty for the second year. If the property owner was redeemed in 13 months, then you would make a 50% penalty. Also during that time, because you have ownership rights, you could actually rent out the property or live in the property. You're just not going to want to put a ton of money or effort into it at that point because there's still that redemption period attached to it. So kind of one of the first questions that every investor needs to ask themselves in deciding, are they interested in tax liens? Are they interested in tax deeds, redemption deeds, is what we called yield versus ownership. Are you looking to invest in for yield, or are you looking to invest into ownership? Now, Shay, do you want to go through and talk about these quickly?
Yeah. I think one thing that's different with what Steve and I do is the way that we approach each case, because everybody is looking for something a little bit different. Everybody has different objectives, and one thing that's interesting about tax sale investing is that it's very diverse. It offers more than just one thing. As you can see, you can buy liens, you can buy deeds, and that's where these questions really come into play. And so it's important to know what you're after before you get started. Are you looking to generate, the highest interest rate possible? Are you looking basically to build on an account that you already have? In other words, are you looking for a safe long-term investment, that will grow at a good rate? Um, you know, Also, it could be that you have less time to dedicate, or maybe you don't necessarily want to get involved with property at all. You just want to earn the interest rate return. I mean, that's what the banks do. That's what they're into, is just earning the high interest rate return on tax liens. They've been making tons of money on it for decades. But they're only interested in that high interest rate return. The other side of it is those that are looking for ownership. If you're looking to replace your income, okay, if you're looking to be more aggressive with it, and you've got to find a way to take a set amount of money and turn it into a larger amount through lump sum returns, then uh, you know property ownership is going to be the best way to do that. You need the ability to buy low, sell high, and so it is more involving. It is a little bit more time extensive, but at the same time, also highly profitable. Because keep in mind, we're talking about being able to pick up properties here for, anywhere from 10 to 50% of what their value is, and you own the properties during this time, meaning that you have the ability to rent these out. And at that kind of a price, rent prices are still very high. So compared to what your investment, the rent price will be enough to probably pay off your investment within a year or 2 years. It's really unheard of to be able to pick up property for this kind of a price that that you could turn around and it would be rentable. But you have those two options, even if you're not looking necessarily for properties that you would rent out. Let's say even just like buying land investments, just buying land. That would also work for this. For investing for ownership here, because you have the ability to buy this land at a low price, and you can turn around and sell it. And when you buy it for a low price, it gives you a lot of options in terms of selling it. You can offer things like owner financing. You can be the bank if you want to be the bank. It offers you so many different opportunities. So yield versus ownership is an important question to ask yourself in the beginning. It's important to ask yourself what you're really after. Are you just looking to build up this account? Are you looking for a safe way to invest? Or are you looking to replace your income?
Yeah, exactly. And so one thing that makes tax lien and deed investing so nice, and probably why we gravitated at a young age. I mean, in our early 20s, we were doing everything we could to learn about a tax lien and deed investing. We read every book, every information. We went to the counties, we went to sales. We really tried to figure out how this works, because when we first got started, it was pretty difficult to understand. In fact, even when we first started in the training industry, they really didn't separate and talk about tax liens and deeds and even explain redemption deeds or anything like that. They kind of lumped it all into one thing. And so that's the reason it was so confusing for so many years, is because people really didn't understand exactly how things work, because there's 50 different states and each state has a different method of working. And so once we're able to break all of that down and help you determine exactly what type of investor you are. And we have in our membership program, we go through and we have 8 different investor profile types. And essentially what that profile type does is it goes through and explains what different type of investor strategies would be involved with this, and what type of returns and the goals with that particular strategy, and then a list of states where you're able to start investing using that strategy. And so what we want to be able to help our students and members do is to break down the confusion of tax sale investing, and really kind of funnel the investor down into where they understand exactly how they would like to do this, and they'll know exactly what states to go through and what their investment goals are. And what's nice is you have so much flexibility with tax lien investing. You can purchase tax liens and just sit on them for 2 years and not even worry about them. Just sit on them for as long as they go. Or you can purchase tax liens like bank-owned liens or over-the-counter liens, where you're purchasing them already into the redemption period, so you can start the redemption period anywhere from 6 months to immediately. You could purchase that over-the-counter tax lien or that bank-owned tax lien and start the foreclosure process immediately, and essentially turn your money over every 3 to 6 months, always earning 18%, and then take your money out and you put it back into a new tax lien certificate, earning 18%. With tax deeds, that for people that are interested in just straight tax deed investing, these are people that want to be real estate investors. That's essentially what it is. That's what tax deeds are, is essentially becoming a real estate investor. In fact, there's so many different strategies. In fact, thought of a new strategy just even with talking with my brothers. They went, one of my brothers and my dad and everyone went this last weekend, and they went to and hunted for bull elk. And essentially they went to this ranch. And many times we've seen different types of hunting land and large tracts of land up in the mountains that are available for rent. But essentially this property is just leased out. The hunting rights are leased out for huge money to these you know to these high-paying private hunters. But even something like that strategy, you looking at hunting land, and there's so many different strategies that you can look at with tax lien and deed investing. You could look at just even buying land and then essentially being the bank on that property. You could look at buying homes and rentals. You could look at just investing in tax liens and earning the highest interest rate return that you possibly can, that's backed by property and that's backed by state law. Once you're able to decide exactly what you're looking to do, then you can go out there and implement a strategy and a plan to go out there and achieve your goals, and there's going to be plenty of opportunity. So that's really the first question is what different types of sales you're going to want to participate in. The second question is picking a buying strategy, because you can purchase tax liens and deeds really in 4 different ways. You can purchase them through what's called a live auction. That's where you attend the auction at the county courthouse. Through online auctions, through what's called over-the-counter, and we'll get into what that means. And then the 4th strategy is going to be what we call bank-owned tax liens, or the secondary market.
I think it's worth telling people that as far as timing, we're at a unique point in time right now with tax sale investing because of the internet and the way the internet's changing things. For many decades, counties only had the ability to conduct a live sale. And when you conduct a live sale, you're kind of limited to the number of people that you can reach. Most people that attend the live sales tend to be local, because people don't want to travel long distance to try to attend these things. Well, about the time that we started was when some of the very first websites started to pop up, and it was where we first started to see online auctions. And what that has done has literally just opened a floodgate for all of tax sale investing, because what it did is it meant the location, you're no longer limited by your location. So many county records used to only be on hard copy. In fact, a lot of county records are still only on hard copy, but there's a high percentage of counties now that are moving over to online systems, and that's making it so much easier, so that now we can do in a matter of just a few minutes what used to require days worth of travel, and we can do it in different states, lots of different states. I would say that the majority of states have something, have work you can do online. so that you wouldn't necessarily have to travel there. So, in terms of the timing and of the opportunity, I don't think there's ever been a better time to get involved with tax sales than right now because the competition is still not it's not big. It's still a confusing strategy for most people, but then again, we don't want you to be like most people. We want to be able to train you so that when you walk into an auction or when you go to log in and participate in an auction, that you're the most informed person there. You understand exactly what you're doing. And so timing wise, though, you won't find a better time to get involved with it than right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point, Shade, and that's really what kind of separated. That's what kind of gave us our edge, or with all of these seminar companies, and how all the biggest companies in the country wanted to work with us and sell our product, is that when we looked at tax sale investing, we said this is confusing. And so, we researched every single state. We went through and we determined and figured out how this actually works. And we created a program that was able to help investors get started with the internet. That was another thing that helped our program really become successful with all of these different large companies, is the ability to essentially help with online investing. When we first got started, there was really no online investing. You had to, even in researching, you had to go down to the county courthouse. So when you attended a tax lien sale, that would be a week-long procedure. It wouldn't just take place over a day. You would go down and spend 3 to 5 days researching the county courthouse, going through and looking at all of these records to determine what are the property records. Now, in a matter of 30 seconds, you can type in a parcel number or click on a link and pull up the property record. See all the information the county has on the property with just a matter of clicks. And so, that's really what we were able to do, and kind of what created the success of our program, was being able to determine exactly online auctions and determine how this tax sale system works.
You know, and just one other point here with live auctions is just the tremendous amount you learn from attending live auctions. I think Steve and I learned more from attending the live auctions than we did from a lot of the books and things that we were reading and different things we were trying to educate ourselves with. It was just attending the auction that really taught us a lot and allowed us to see, what mistakes people were making, allowed us to get a better idea of how we wanted to approach things. And it's also where we've seen amazing opportunities. We've seen huge tracts of land, sell for probably pennies on the dollar compared to what they're actually worth. We've seen people spend tons of money on property that wasn't worth anything, because they had no idea what they were doing. They just kind of walked in and started bidding on things. So we've experienced a lot of that, and I think that if you ever do get a chance to attend a live auction, it's a great experience. You should definitely get on board. And one of the advantages of tax liens is you don't have to spend a ton of money if you don't want to. I think the first lien that I bought was for $67. And it ended up redeeming. It was a good investment, in the end. But it was what I learned from that investment, though, was far more valuable than any return I could have earned on that $67.
Yeah, in fact, something that we've talked about since the very beginning is when me and Shade attended our first tax deed sale here locally. That's where we learned about not becoming an emotional bidder. In fact, with our members, we have a training where we talk about not becoming an emotional bidder, because that's where we first saw emotional bidders get involved and overpay or do things that you shouldn't do if you're looking at it from an investment standpoint, because of ego, because of for all of these different reasons. In fact, I remember when me and Shade first attended our first sale, there was this older gentleman, and as I talked with some of the other investors there, it was kind of my first time, and I'm asking questions to everyone, and anyone who talked. But even then, we'd had so much knowledge at that point. But there was this older gentleman, and he has a reputation of attending the auctions and bidding on every single property and bidding. And his thing is he will not be outbid. I mean, to me, that's a terrible investment strategy, but whatever. And so he goes down there and he bids on these properties, and there was this young couple in front of us, and you could almost just see the the naivety, the naiveness of this couple as far as they'd seen the TV infomercial, they were going to attend the tax sale. And because this guy was bidding on property and bidding fiercely on property and wouldn't lose a property, they thought he knew what he was bidding on. And so they started getting in a bidding war with him, and I was sitting behind him. Me and Shade were sitting behind him, and we were just, talking to him and saying, hey, we've researched this property. It doesn't have a value. It's actually a drainage ditch. It's a nice drainage ditch, but it's just a large drainage basin. You can't do anything with it. It has an easement. Doesn't have value. You can't do anything with it. And and so, finally, and me pestering them because I knew that this was probably their savings. They were coming down there hoping to make it big, and so they were in this bidding war with this individual. And afterwards, the young kid, I guess he was probably just a year or two younger than me, so I shouldn't call him a kid, turned around and was really frustrated at us. And he said, you made us lose that property. That property should have been ours. And I said, you don't want that property. He said, well, he knows something that you don't know. I said, we've researched the property. And so, the very next sale, the next property, he got in a bidding war and he ended up winning that property. And essentially he bought a property that was worthless, just because not understanding exactly how the sale works. And so attending a live auction, like Shade mentioned, is going to be an incredible way for you to understand how the auction works. And when it comes to these live auctions, even though counties are moving to an online auction, there's still a huge number of states that don't have online auctions. And even if your state has online auctions, there's a good chance that it's going to have normal auction. It's going to have an auction. So like Shade mentioned, if you have the chance to go to an auction, we definitely recommend doing it. And also, going to live auctions is its own strategy because you're really just competing with the local investors. For example, let's say you want to do Florida deeds. There's an advantage of actually flying out to the county and attending one of these live deed sales versus an online auction, because an online auction, of course, is going to be able to compete online with everyone. So I'm here in Utah. We're here in Utah. We can bid on properties in Florida, even though we live here, because we're able to do it online. So there's a strategy in attending that sale live and just competing with the local bidders there, because really the success or the amount of how many liens or deeds are sold at the auction is going to be based on how many investors there are. So you may have an auction where they're trying to sell $1 million worth of property, but there's only $500,000 between the investors. What does that mean? It means that there's going to be over-the-counter properties possibly. It also means that you're going to be able to not have huge bidding wars. You're not going to overpay for these properties because you're going to get them at the lowest possible price. The next thing we're going to talk about, or I guess buying strategy 2, is online auctions. Do you want to talk a little bit about online auctions and kind of how we got started with them? Shade?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can go over the online auctions here briefly. The online auctions, which we've talked a little bit about, we are seeing more and more counties move over to them. Like we said, the first time we saw them was maybe 15 years ago. But what's happened though is more and more counties are moving over to an online auction system because it makes it that much easier for the county to be successful. You see, I mean, the counties need their sales to be successful. This is something that needs to function and work well, because it's how they ensure that their property taxes are coming in, that they're able to pay, all their outgoing expenses. And so there are a couple of different ways the counties have done this, because it does enable them to reach so many more people. There are some companies some third-party companies that conduct online auctions that some counties have moved over to. And then there are some counties that will set up their own online auction systems that you can utilize. But in both cases, we understand who those counties are and when they hold their sales, so that our members can participate in them. And so as some of these counties move over, what's exciting about it is that it causes many other counties, sometimes in the same state, to move over. And our guess is that eventually all of the counties, will eventually move over to some kind of an online auction system. But we're still in that transitional period right now where I think that they're working their way up to that. But there are some advantages, unique advantages that online auctions offer. Number one is that they're typically much easier to locate information for. They've structured these so that you can locate that information quickly through things like links that'll pull up property records. I mean, when we say that you can do in a couple of minutes what used to take days, it's literally the case with that, because you can go through a list and just simply click on links that'll pull up property records and the information you need to conduct due diligence and research. So it is amazing how simple they've made this. In fact, some even have trial auctions. They have practice auctions you can go through to see exactly what it's like, and to make sure that when the real sale does come up, that you're going to understand what you're doing. So, some of the different companies that conduct online auctions are Real Auction. They hold a lot of sales in a couple different states, but they do a lot in Florida specifically. What other states does Real Auction? I'm thinking here, they
They
operate
do,
in another state.
yeah, they do tax liens in Nebraska and New
Oh, that's right.
Jersey. New Jersey, they have a ton, in New Jersey, there's a ton of auctions. In fact, we talked with our members this last week about some of the upcoming auctions in New Jersey and went through and looked at them and kind of focused on it specifically because they have an 18% interest rate. But in New Jersey, they don't sell tax liens on a county basis. They sell them through the cities and through the townships and the counties, and so there's several different ways that they have tax lien auctions. They're not just done through a county. They can be done by the city as well. And many times in New Jersey, the city is actually the one that collects the property taxes. The county, is more of, it's a little bit different there, and so that gives an opportunity. They also have Maryland, and then they mostly have deed sales in Florida,
Oh,
and so what
oh
was
yeah.
that?
So, well, I guess Jerry, one of our attendees said Arizona also.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep. Arizona, Colorado, they have tax lien sales. They have quite a different. They're really probably one of the biggest companies out there as far as auctioning off, as far as conducting these tax sales for the county. And so what these auction companies do is and some of them are kind of almost competing against each other. Well, they all are in a way, but Real Auction and Grant Street Group, they're very similar. They have Real Auction has a few more states, but Grant Street Group does kind of does the same thing, and they do half of Florida and some of Arizona, and they and as well, and they also do some deeds in Florida as well, and some deeds in California. And then there's also bidforassets.com. Now, this is the primary one that's used to purchase tax deeds in California. All except for two of the California counties will use bidforassets.com. So what's nice about these different companies, these different auction websites, is they understand that this may be brand new as far as getting online and trying to bid on property for these investors. They understand that for years the investors have attended the sale in person, and there was kind of a certain way. And so what they've tried to do, as Shade mentioned, is make it very easy for you to be able to use these systems. Make it very able to log on and to bid on property and to go through this process and to research the property. And so because of that, you can actually participate in webinars on how to use realauction.com or how to bid on property. You can participate in these practice auctions. In fact, some of them have auctions every single day that you can practice bidding on property and not even use real money, just getting an idea of how to bid on property and bidding down property. So it's pretty unique, and really that's kind of what changed with tax lien and deed investing. What it makes it nice for us, and for a lot of investors, is we can invest in areas that we never thought we could without going out to the area. We can create a power team in Florida to be able to handle the things that we need done there on the ground, and we're able to bid on properties here in Utah and be able to create and have successful transactions in Florida. An investor can do that from anywhere. And that's what makes online auctions nice, is that you're going to have the ability to participate in auctions from all across the country. And when you're just a tax lien investor, it really doesn't matter. You're just looking at the interest rate return, you're looking at the foreclosure proceedings, and if everything is fits the parameters of what you're looking to do, then it doesn't matter if you purchase a tax lien in New Jersey or Colorado or Arizona or Florida, because essentially you're going to be um, the strategy is exactly the same depending on where you're investing. So kind of the four quick steps, and we're not going to have the time today to be able to break this all down like we do in our online auction trainings and workshops. But the first thing is you're going to need to register. Now, registration just takes a few minutes. It can be done on the internet, and depending on the auction type, you may need to put a deposit down. If you're just registering for Real Auction or Grant Street Group, or registering for one of to essentially create a username and password, that's not going to take anything. It's if you decide to actually bid at any of these particular properties. From there you're going to go ahead and research the property, and that's really kind of old training in itself of how to be able to do that. But what makes it nice is you're able to do all of that research online.
We actually
Number
have somebody too. Just
oh,
as
go
once we
ahead.
get
Go
done with
ahead.
this, we have somebody. We just had somebody comment here that they're interested in secondary liens. I think they want to make sure we don't miss that.
Yep. Once we get done through online auctions, then we're going to go ahead and talk about over-the-counter liens, and then bank-owned liens as well. So that's definitely something we're going to go through and talk about in detail. And so, once you've done the research, then you're going to bid, and the bidding is going to take place on the individual county website. And then, of course, once that is done, once the auction is ended, you're going to be awarded any tax liens or deeds that you were able to acquire. So, we've talked about live auctions, we've talked about online auctions. The third buying strategy is over the counter. And Shay, do you kind of want to briefly talk about, what are over the counter tax liens?
Sure. Yeah. Over the counter is a term that is used to describe any kind of a tax lien, or it could actually be a deed in some cases too. Anything that was offered at a sale, but for whatever reason didn't sell. If it didn't sell, for instance, with a tax lien, if a tax lien doesn't sell at auction, it's not really helping the county in any way. The county still wants to be able to sell that lien because it represents, revenue that they're missing. So what they'll do is they'll put them back on their books and they'll sell them to investors following the sale. Now, the advantage for the investor and why you would buy something over the counter is when you buy it after the sale, you are automatically bypassing any competition. So that means you're going to earn the maximum interest rate allowed in the state. So if you buy over the counter, you're going to make the maximum rate of return, which is a big advantage. But also, the redemption period, which we talked about, the redemption period begins on the date of the auction, whether the tax lien sells or not. So even if a tax lien doesn't sell and it has a 2-year redemption period, if it goes back on the books, and let's say it sits on the books with the county for the next 6 months, then when you were to buy it, it would no longer have a 2-year redemption period. It would have an 18-month redemption period at that point, because 6 months at that time would have already passed. So there are some advantages in that way. You can actually buy liens that are foreclosure ready, meaning that as soon as you buy them, they're eligible to be foreclosed on. You just have to initiate that process. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to get the property in every case, but some properties need to have foreclosure initiated before they'll actually pay off the delinquent taxes that are owed. In other words, until they actually are faced with the threat of losing the property, they won't pay the property taxes. And so when you buy liens that are foreclosure ready, you are in a way controlling the time frame a little bit better. Rather than buying the lien and knowing that you might have to wait for up to 2 years or 3 years, you can buy that lien and know that you can initiate the foreclosure process immediately. And what that means is that there's going to be some kind of resolution with the property within 6 months, most likely there. So either it's going to redeem and you get a check in the mail, which at that point you're going to get the check in the mail for the maximum interest rate return anyway once you filed for foreclosure, or you end up foreclosing on the property altogether. So over-the-counter investing has some real advantages because you don't have to worry about dealing with an actual auction. But you can still go through large lists of properties and be able to buy all the same. So it's a strategy that a lot of people like to employ because it doesn't have that pressure associated with the auction. It's just something you're doing after the auction. Basically, buy leftovers, which aren't necessarily all bad. A lot of times there's some really good properties that end up not selling at auction. So it's a great opportunity for people that are interested in doing some research and finding, that gem, among all the different properties.
Yeah, I mean, really, as you talk, I was just able to continue flipping through the slides because you were able to hit each point. There's several different reasons why a lien or deed may not sell at the auction, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad investment. The number one primary reason is that there's more liens or deeds, there's more property, there's more investment available than there's money at the auction, than there is money between the investors there. And so, when you're looking at over-the-counter tax liens, these are essentially the tax liens that or tax deeds. In both scenarios, you're able to get both type of properties that were not sold at the auction. And so these may, it could be a number of different reasons why it didn't sell. Maybe the person that purchased the tax lien defaulted. It could be a mistake in the original offering, but the most usual reason, or I guess the most primary reason, is because there's not enough money between the investors. There wasn't enough competition to essentially sell all of the tax liens that are available. You'll find in some auctions where every single tax lien sold, and there's never going to be over the counters because they have a limited number of liens. So, if me and Shade go up to Wyoming sometimes and participate in their sales, or if we were to go to Colorado and participate in their sale, some of their local sales, some of their local tax lien sales, the list may only be 100 or 200 or 300 properties. It may not be a massive list. It may be a pretty small list. And so in those type of scenarios, every single tax lien gets purchased because, you may have a chance to purchase 3 or 4 tax liens. Because in a state like Wyoming, for example, what makes it kind of fun, and it makes it a little bit different as well, is you don't bid on property. They do a random selection. In fact, I mean, really what that means is it's almost like putting everyone's name in a hat, and they pick out your name, and you have a chance to buy that tax lien, or you can pass. And if you buy that tax lien, then you're essentially the lien holder, and you buy at the highest interest rate. Most tax liens, the bidding method is to bid down the interest rate. And so with over-the-counters, you're not bidding down that interest rate. If you purchase an over-the-counter tax lien, you're getting at the highest interest rate possible at 18%, at 16%. And then with tax deeds, you're not going to be bidding up the price of the tax deeds. It's essentially the delinquent taxes. The county's just trying to get it off its books. They're trying to get rid of it. And so in some scenarios, in some places in the country, you can submit offers for some of these individual properties, offers over $100 or offers over $500. And sometimes they have these resales, which is a kind of over the counter as well, just because they're taking all of the property that didn't sell, and they're selling that property starting at a $100 bid or a $500 bid. Last year in a county in California, they sold over 500 properties for opening bids starting at $100. We're talking about California real estate here, starting with a $100 opening bid. And so these are all the properties that may not have sold. So you're going to go through, and you may, for over-the-counter tax liens, you may need to go through and do a little bit of digging and some research. But you're going to find those prime tax liens or tax deeds that you can pick up for the lowest possible price or in the highest possible interest rate. So how does over-the-counter investing work? Well, first of all, the county's just going to put together the list. They're going to make them available. This list can be obtained by contacting the county. It can be obtained off of our website, taxhelpsupport.com. Now, these over-the-counter lists, they can actually range in size. We have some over-the-counter deed lists that may only have 2 or 3 properties on it. And then we have some tax lien lists that may have literally, 10,000 tax liens or 5,000 tax liens available on it. So once you get that list, you're just going to go through and do the normal due diligence. You're going to go through and find those good tax liens and good tax deeds, and you're going to have to, as you go through, you're going to just really pick those best ones. With tax lien and deed investing, it is completely safe. It's a great investment, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every property is a good property. Shay, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. In fact, is it possible to lose money with tax lien or tax deed investing? Absolutely. You can certainly lose money with it just like any other investment if you don't know what you're doing. However, if you understand what you're doing at all, is it a safe investment? I would say if you understand what you're doing at all, it's one of the safest investments, that you can find. Um, and the reason for that is because when you're buying liens, a lien is really only as valuable as the property that it's placed against. And what you're relying on when you buy a lien is the fact that the owner is going to have the desire to keep that property, that there's something about the property that's desirable, that they want to retain it, that they want to continue to pay the property taxes so they can keep their ownership with it. If you happen to pick out a property that doesn't have any real value or use, so maybe you've got a tiny piece of a property that's next to other properties. Let's say it's landlocked, has other things going against it. Maybe it has some kind of an easement on it, which would be something like a drainage ditch, and just the government reserving the right to use it for some purpose. Properties like this, if they don't have any use or value, then the problem you run into is when you buy a lien against it. Like I said, you're buying a lien that is banking on the fact that the property owner will pay off their taxes at some point, and if they don't, then you can foreclose on the property. Well, if you buy a lien against a property that doesn't have any value, the property owner may not care if the property is lost to foreclosure. And so if that's the case, then they don't, if they're not going to pursue, if they're not going to pay it off, then your only repercussion there is to foreclose on the property. But to foreclose on the property doesn't really make sense if it doesn't have any value. In other words, if you can't sell the property for something, if it doesn't have some kind of real world value attached to it, then what's the point of foreclosing on it? So part of what we teach our members to do is how to identify those types of properties so that they can easily avoid those properties and stick to the ones that are more profitable. It's easy to pick good tax liens. That's something that we make sure all of our members can do consistently, is know how to choose good tax liens and how to buy them consistently. Because in the reality is, it's not a difficult thing to do, but it can be time consuming, and it's something that takes some time and some expertise, which I guess kind of goes into what we're talking about, what I'm sure we'll get into here in a minute, is exactly what Steve's leading in here, which is there a way that you can get all the advantages or benefits of tax lien investing without the huge time investment that's required? And that's why, what Steve's got up here right now, which he'll talk about bank-owned certificates. I think this is one of the neatest things available right now. I mean, this is a pretty new strategy. It's not one that would have existed to everyday investors even 5 years ago, because it's kind of a new segment of the market that's opening up, but it's a fantastic idea, and it's working so well for investors. I'll let you go ahead and talk about it, Steve, but it's definitely something
Yeah.
that's exciting to me.
Yeah, when it comes to these bank-owned certificates, over the years, me and Shade had the opportunity to offer these to our investors before, but the problem is we gotten and we started looking through these taxes that they wanted to offer our students through some of these different companies. We looked through them, and they were what we call high risk, or even toxic. And so the last thing we wanted to do was to put a bad investment. When it comes to me and Shade, we've actually been pretty fortunate. We've been involved in this now, for, it's 2017, so, over 17 years, really, and we've never had a horror story with tax sale investing. Now, that doesn't mean, we've taught 50, 60,000 students, so that, I guess, that doesn't mean that there hasn't been any. But the student didn't admit it to us, because we had given them everything. We had given them the things to look for, and so really the only time that we've ever seen money lost was from people that weren't educated. As Shay talked about, that value and use, that really becomes so important. And so, when it comes to these bank-owned certificates, essentially what these are large banks large hedge funds. They have been buying tax liens for decades. In fact, that was really the main competition for tax sale investing. In fact, one thing to kind of piggyback is some of these banks are not competing the way they used to because they used to dominate certain areas. Like you could go down to Maricopa County, and when we first got started, if you attended the sale, there was 20 to 30, sometimes even up towards 50 different people that one of these large banks would have bidding on these tax lien certificates. So they would essentially just bid against all the other investors, but they wouldn't bid against themselves, and they just really dominated these tax lien sales. And that's kind of what's changed with some of these online auctions is now, it's open to everyone, and so they don't dominate the way they used to, but there's still large hedge funds in these banks that still buy millions of dollars every single year. And what they do is, in fact, there's certain places in the country that sell their entire portfolio. So they'll sell some places in Ohio and some of these different areas will sell their entire tax lien certificate portfolio to one of these large banks or hedge funds. And so they have huge amounts of tax lien certificates. But what happens is banks don't like to go through the foreclosure process. These hedge funds don't know how to essentially foreclose on these tax lien certificates. So what they usually do is they buy these millions of dollars worth of tax liens and then they just sit on them. They just essentially let them pay off. And once these tax liens get near to the end of the redemption period, or once they become ready to foreclose, then the bank just goes ahead and they offer these liens to companies and to large, big private money investors that will purchase these portfolio of tax liens. So let's say they have a $10 million portfolio of liens, and 9 million of those liens have redeemed, but they have $1 million worth of left of these liens that are essentially all foreclosure ready. They're essentially ready to be purchased and start the foreclosure process, or very close to the foreclosure process. So in looking at those tax lien certificates, essentially these companies would be able to purchase them and start the foreclosure process immediately. So really the secondary markets is a term that describes purchasing tax liens directly from these banks and from these large hedge funds. But to be able to purchase these type of tax liens, you essentially needed millions of dollars. Some of these portfolios would be, $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, because these banks have such a huge inventory of tax lien certificates. So it wasn't something that was available to the average investor. And that's really something that's changed, and something that we went out to find when we started again in 2016, kind of taking our product directly to the public, is we wanted to find an avenue where we could offer these secondary market liens without having the ability to have the toxic liens. To have somebody who's really concerned about helping our students be able to purchase these tax liens and recoup the best. Having these liens pre-screened, having a portfolio manager really help you through the process.
Yeah, which I think that's a big part of what we're able to offer now is that relationship with these hedge funds and banks and our portfolio manager. We work with. It is such a huge benefit for members to be able to buy portfolios, secondary tax lien portfolios, versus doing it on their own. Because let's say you wanted to invest $20,000 into liens on your own. Well, on your own, there is a lot of work you need to go through in order to select that. And it's not to say you can't do it, because you can certainly do it. That's what we teach all the time. But there are some people, I think, that just want that additional help, and it's so nice to be able to have them just speak to a portfolio manager who can basically find out exactly what they want to invest, and can essentially go into the portfolio and try to select the liens that are going to work best for that investor. Basically, do the due diligence for the investor, get all those together, and so that the investor can buy them. I think it's the greatest system that they've come up with for tax lien investors, because it's one that everyday people can use to make high interest rate returns.
About that, I start talking with my mute on. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what makes it nice is when we're looking at through these portfolios of tax lien certificates, we're only looking for, the very best tax liens to be able to offer to our students. And what makes it nice is we're looking through these different tax lien certificates. When we make an offer on these tax liens, if there's a discount that's available, um, with the tax lien and there's additional discount, we're able to offer that discount to our investor. Now, depending on the discount that we're able to get. And so what we're able to do is go directly to these different banks and hedge funds and essentially make an offer on these different portfolios. And depending on that discount, depending on how good a discount we can get, depending on the quality of the lien, if it's a category A, a category B, a category C, depending on the location, certain things like that, we can get these discounts. And if there is a discount available, then we'll pass that on to the investor. So what that means is that you're going to get the tax lien either at the current tax lien amount, or you may even be able to get a discount on that tax lien where you're essentially able to buy that tax lien and you've already made money on it before you've purchased it. Now, what's nice is you're working with the portfolio manager, so they're going to go through and they're going to do all of the research on the tax liens. They're going to go through and review them. They're going to go through it and show you, each one of them. You'll give you a list and you can go through and click on them and review all of these different tax liens. Now, once you purchase those tax liens, then the portfolio manager is going to help you go through the foreclosure process with these tax liens. And so really the strategy with these bank-owned tax liens is the ability to start the foreclosure process with either immediately, within 6 months, so that you can get your money back anywhere between 6 months to a year. That way, your money is constantly making you money. If you hold it, let's say you purchase a $20,000 portfolio, and after 6 months you get all of that $20,000 back, plus you've made 18% off of it the entire time. Then you're able to take that money plus your profit and invest into the next portfolio. So for bank-owned tax lien certificates, it's really for that investor that doesn't have the time to be able to go through and research these individually, and go through and do the research and purchase them, and essentially just want to be able to have somebody help you. And so really the goal of it is once you've purchased these tax liens and foreclosed on them, we're going to have additional bank-owned tax liens that you can buy, and so you can just continue reinvesting over and over again. Makes really nice for accounts like 401ks and different things like that to be able to make a good return.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the main points is the simplicity of this, and also the fact that that our portfolio manager has the perspective that he wants to be able to keep the same clients and have them reinvest over and over. In other words, rather than working with 1,000 people, he would rather work with 50 people, that he works with regularly. And that's part of the reason why he's so good and so helpful about things like the foreclosure process, because he knows that it's a simple process. Most of the secondary liens that we have are in Florida, so we understand the process pretty well there, and he knows that he can get the property through the foreclosure process here, and that as soon as it redeems, that that you can reinvest your money into more liens. And so it is the best system out there, I think, for people that want to actually take a good chunk of their money, invest into liens, make a high interest rate return safely, but without putting all the time into it that it would take if you were just going to buy them. If you're just going to buy them on your own. I mean, either way, they're still liens, and so I think there's the high level of security. The primary difference is just what exactly, how much time is required in order to be successful with it. So I don't think that there's an easier way to earn high interest rate returns, of 12 to 18%. I don't think there is an easier way to find pre-screened tax liens, that have already been sorted through liens that we already know are good liens. And to have the assistance and the help of a portfolio manager, that in and of itself, I think, is a huge value, because you're talking essentially about an investment advisor in a way, and it's not going to cost you some kind of a fee, aside from just membership in our program. Um, and it also gives you the ability to buy many at once, so you don't have to just buy them one at a time. I mean, liens are all different sizes, and so you can decide exactly what you want to buy, but you can buy many of them, all at the same time. And like Steve mentioned a minute ago, he touched on it with self-directed IRAs and 401ks. This is the best way to invest in tax liens using one of those accounts because tax liens are perfect for self-directed accounts. There are many account custodians right now that specialize in this and that make it easier for you to invest using those funds. So imagine rather than having somebody else in control of your retirement funds, you are controlling your retirement funds, investing them yourself into secondary liens because you earn a good high interest rate return. I don't know about you, but I know that for most of the people that I've talked to that have um, lost money over the last 15 years in the stock market, they're still looking for a good way to earn even just a couple percent a year. It can be a challenge with a lot of investments. So the idea of being able to earn in excess of 10% a year plus with tax liens is exactly what a lot of people are looking for. I think if more people knew about this and how it worked, I think more people would want to be involved with it and do it. I'm sure it'll pick up in popularity here as time goes on.
Yeah, exactly. And so with these secondary liens, with these bank-owned tax liens, essentially what our students are able to do is members of our website are able to go ahead and contact the portfolio manager. Now, right now, because we're making these offers to the banks, um, essentially to work with the portfolio manager, you need to have a portfolio of about $5,000. Now, currently working on the process to be able to offer secondary liens for investors that want to buy them, that they can buy them directly off the website. So you'll be able to, click on the tax lien, fill out the agreement, have the tax lien transferred, pay for it, everything on the website. So until we get that with these bank-owned tax liens, essentially you're going to be looking about at $5,000 because we're not going to be able to get you any type of a discount at all, or even a discount to go through and make it. Do all of the work of the due diligence and do the job of the portfolio manager. So the discount is, what's paid through the portfolio manager is never paid by you. It's paid in the discount that they're able to get through these banks and through these different hedge funds. And so with that, we're soon going to be able to offer them on the website, but up until then, that's kind of where we're at. So for students that maybe you have $500 or $1,000 or something like that to invest, we're going to show you and teach you and help you go out there and purchase some over-the-counter tax liens, and hopefully within the next 30 to 60 days, we're going to have that fully built where you can purchase these secondary liens off the website as well. So as far as bank-owned tax liens, that's kind of what we wanted to go through today. What we can also do is answer any questions, and then from there we can also, if we have time, we can go take a look at the website and some of the offers that are available on the website, and then go take a look at some upcoming auctions.
We should talk about the workshop we have coming up here in December. I don't know if
Yeah,
we've talked about that yet.
yeah, exactly. I was actually going to pull up the web page so that we could go to the website and check it out.
Oh yeah, yeah. So what we're doing is pretty exciting. We have on December 9th, 10th, and 11th, we are doing a buying tour. It's a tax sale buying tour out of Las Vegas. And what this will be is it will be 3 days uh, where we can work closely with a small group of people. And when I say a small group of people, it goes along with what our strategy and what our I guess what we believed in all along, and that is, and we want to be able to provide a lot of value to the people that we work with, and we don't want things to cost much. We want people to be successful, and so one thing we're really looking forward to with this group is that we're deciding to keep it especially small. In fact, we're going to have less than 10 people. Okay, so less than 10 people, we're both going to be there. If you can start to just think about the amount of time that we're going to have over the course of 3 full days, we're going to have a lot of time to spend with each and every person, and this is going to be a buying tour. We want people to come prepared to invest so that we can help them through that experience. What we found is that there are a lot of people um, that want to invest in tax liens, that even learn a lot about tax liens, but ultimately they need or they would like a little bit more help, I think, when it comes to making some of the investments, when it comes to taking different steps. They just want a little bit more help, and so the workshop is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen before. We've never seen some kind of a boot camp or a workshop or a buying tour like this where they keep the group this small and where it's just going to be a couple of people that are focused on just this small group. In fact, one of the people that are attending was telling us about how they attended some kind of a workshop that they paid $4,000 or $5,000 to go to, and when they got there, uh, they said that half the time they spent there, they were trying to sell them on some big $40,000 package, and you know, uh, that's exactly what we want to avoid. In other words, we want to make sure that the people that show up are going to be successful, that they can invest, and we want to make sure that they're not paying an arm and a leg for it. So, in fact, what we would like to do with these workshops is to hold these every month to 2 months. But this one coming up on the 9th, 10th, and 11th is a for sure thing, and we still have some seats open. Not a lot, but we still have some. I don't know if we still have maybe 5 more openings available. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that sounds about right.
So I mean, this is going to be something completely different that has ever been done. I mean, you're not going to be sold anything. We're going to be spending not only time training you, we're going to be doing one-on-one sessions with you, but you're going to have the chance to invest while at the auction. You're going to see us bid on tax deeds. You're going to have the opportunity to bid on tax liens at auction. You're going to have the opportunity to purchase over-the-counter tax liens. In addition with that, we're going to be bringing down lists of bank-owned tax liens. So you're going to have a chance to purchase bank-owned tax liens while at the event as well. So not only are you going to be learning and understanding, and we're going to be going through and explaining and showing how to be able to do these different types of tax sales and go through the process of bidding online, but you're also going to have the chance to purchase while at the event. So, I mean, we really think this is going to be an awesome event. And something that's never been done before. You're not going to come out of this event saying, oh man, that was a waste of money. In addition, with just the 3-day, that's not just all you get. We're going to have 16 coaching sessions. We're going to do 2 sessions before, a week before, probably 2 times within that week. We'll have 2 coaching sessions, and then we're going to do 4 sessions after. So even after we're done, as a small group, we're going to become friends at the event. We're going to know each other, and so afterward, we'll be able to do these group coaching sessions and see how everyone's doing and help you with your deals after we already attended the event. In addition with that, students that enroll are going to be able to get a 3-month membership subscription to our website as well. So we're going to go ahead and get you hooked up with the website. So whenever somebody goes and signs up, we're going to get you the website, your new username and password, and get you set up for this event. So, I can promise you that it's going to be nothing like you've ever experienced before. So as far as, we'll quickly go through our membership real quick. We have different membership programs for investors that are interested in secondary liens or some of the things that we offer. In addition to our training, I mean, if we were to go through here, we could, probably spend an hour talking about everything that's available through our website. We have the auction calendar of all the upcoming auction lists. We have our over-the-counter list database. We have online auction tabs. We have our profile center that breaks down the states and the investor profile types, and we have our member center where we have the forum and the blogs, and the training center where we have all of our training, and our course library where we're going to have all of our home study programs. So essentially what we're doing is we're giving you everything we got, and that's available. So you can see this is our home study program. This is what we first wrote, updated version of. Essentially, this is what really started us in Tax Lien Indeed and started working with all the seminar companies. We have our real estate course as well, and all of our ebooks there. So you can go over here. We have 2 different ways you can sign up for membership. You can go ahead and sign up for a monthly membership, or you can go ahead and sign up for a year membership as well. In addition, you guys, if you attend the webinar, you should have got the email from us that has the link that you can click on to get the the personal strategy session. That's something we're going to be doing over the next 3 days, 4 days. So all of you guys will get that link with the 4 gifts that we're going to be giving you guys today for attending the auction. That's the ebook download pack that includes, the 4 or 5 ebooks that we mentioned. That's going to include the over-the-counter list and the list package, the strategy call, and of course today's webinar as well. So, hopefully we wanted to get you out there, help give you guys some things to get started, and also give you guys some ideas about some of the things that we offer and about some of our different training programs. And so what we do with our members is we have them go ahead and hit the home study program, go through and read that, and then we, on a weekly basis, we're always talking about different subjects. So our students are always going to have the top knowledge, the top information about upcoming auctions, about strategies, and really this tax sale support as a community. We want this to be a place where and it's growing into that, where investors are able to communicate to one another. Before things like live chat and forums and things like that weren't really available because they wanted to regulate what students said to each other. With this program, everything's straight up front and easy to understand. So if we have, do we have some time, Shade, to go through and look at a couple of upcoming auctions?
Well, I guess it depends on, we're about an hour and 36 so far, so it's depending on how long or what people want to stay for. It's up to them. Oh, we can also give them the links, I guess, we can also provide them links, though, if they want to check out anything, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
After the training, we can go ahead and send you out all the links to our upcoming auctions and the link to the different programs, and then also the downloads to review the books. But just to give you an idea of what's available, you can see these different auctions coming up, and there's all kinds of different opportunity, through tax lien investing. You can see all of these New Jersey auctions that are coming up, and each one is going to have its own essential website. So you can go to the website and you can preview all the different items for sale. So we can see some of the different tax lien certificates here. Here's a piece of vacant land. It's about an acre. Has a $30,000 value, $632 tax lien certificate. Here's a $3,000 tax lien. You can see this is a residential property built in 2005. Has a value of $356,000 and has a $3,579 tax lien certificate against it. We can go look at tax deeds, and we can see all of the different tax deed auctions that are coming up here. Auctions coming up in California over December, and that's one thing with this boot camp that we want to focus on is we have a lot of investors that want to get started now. They essentially want to do their New Year's resolution now. Take care of it now, get ready to go now. And so that's really what this boot camp and this 3-day is going to allow them to do. In addition with that, December and early January is an interesting time because it's a time of the year in years past where we've seen less competition at the auction. And so what that means is the auctions that are coming up over the next 30 to 60 days, generally speaking, from what we've seen in the past over the last decade or so, will usually have less competition. People are investors and people are thinking about life during that point, Christmas, vacation, whatever it is, and they're not focusing on their investments. And so that gives us an opportunity there to be able to participate in not only tax lien sales, but have maybe less competition, but also purchase tax deed sales or participate in these tax deed sales. There's tax deed sales coming up in California. You can see all of these different Florida. In fact, over the next 30 days, there's going to be over 50 different tax deed auctions in Florida. There's going to be, I think, 7 or 8 California tax deed auctions, and there's also going to be 6 or 7 Washington tax deed auctions as well. So these are some of the properties and things that we're going to be looking at while we're attending the boot camp and while at the boot camp. And we'll probably actually be doing some bidding on some Florida tax deeds there as well. And so Florida is just really a pretty nice state. We like investing there, and just really because of the ease. I mean, we can go right here. You can see here Lee County, Florida, where they have auctions every single day. Not every single day, but every single Tuesday of the month. We can see that they have auctions, on the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, the 27th. And this is what makes it nice when we're talking about, um, you know, finding a particular area that you want to invest in. So we can live here in Utah, and I can focus on Lee County, Florida. We can create a power team there, somebody that can go take pictures of the property for us, maybe a realtor if needed, whatever we need to create in our power team. We talk about that in our trainings, and essentially you'll have the opportunity. So if you don't win one of the properties here, they had 40 properties, 39 available on the 6th, then you're going to be able to participate in the next sale on the 13th. And if you don't win a property in that one, you can participate in the sale on the 20th and then 27th. And so, that's where we're looking at getting the property for the lowest possible price and the best possible value. So, when we're purchasing tax deeds, we may lose 5 or 6 tax deeds before we're actually able to acquire one at the price, the location, and the profit or the margins there that we're looking at. So, in clicking these different auctions, you can see all of the different lists and see what the property is. When we teach our members, we teach them what's called the bid to value ratio. And as we're looking through here, we're essentially looking at that opening bid versus the value. But we'll take one property. We'll look at this one property before we go. We can see one here. We can see it has an address. We can see it has a value of $75,000, and it has an opening bid of $6,000. Now we're going to go ahead and click on that link to see what this property is. So it looks like this is a commercial property, warehouse distribution. So if we're looking at a commercial type of real estate here, overall, looks like it could be a pretty good value when you're looking at a $75,000 assessed value. So this property probably has more of a market value of $100,000. For a $6,600 opening bid, you can see how there's an incredible amount of profit that could be had in purchasing that property. Looks like there's a lot of land in this one. But that's the advantage. You can go through and participate in all of these different auctions. Here's one with a $12,000 bid, $63,000 assessed value, and we can see that it's a nice single-family home. Looks like it's newer. Looks like the grass needs to be cut. May not have been lived in for very long. But what we can do if we want to get an idea of what the value is, we can at least get an idea. What we do when we're talking about tax deed for our members is we have them, do a comparative market analysis, and we teach you how to do that to really determine what the value property is here. But here we're looking at an estimated value of $120,000 for a property that was built in 1984. It looks like it's got central air. Overall, we're looking at a property here with a $12,000 opening bid worth about $120,000, so it has an opening bid value of about 10%. So the opening bid's going to start about 10%. Maybe it bids for 20%, maybe it ends up bidding for 30%, just depending on the property's condition. But if you're interested in tax lien and deed investing, if you're interested in attending the boot camp, just go to taxsalesupport.com. We're going to be sending you the links afterwards. You can see our website membership program, also our 3-day boot camp. Of course, you can click here and learn more about it. And then starting at the first of the year, that's when we're going to start offering the coaching program. So we'll start that in January, sometime around there. So it's definitely something that we're serious about. We want to help investors. If that's something that you guys are interested in, definitely contact us, set up the strategy session. What we'll do with the strategy session is we'll send you, we'll have you go to this page. You'll go ahead and click on and fill out some of your information so that we can get an idea of what you're working with, what you're looking to do. And then from there, we'll go ahead and give you a call. Either myself, my brother is also going to be helping us with it as well, and determine exactly what you're looking for. Then we'll go through and from there be able to recommend you investor profile type to get started with, and we'll send you out a newsletter with how that profile works to help you get going. So it's definitely something we believe in. Shay, do you have anything to add to end?
No, other than if you have any thoughts of getting involved in with investing, or if you're looking to do something like secondary liens, this upcoming boot camp should be a great opportunity for any of those that can attend. If you can attend, though, you can still just be a regular member and be able to access our portfolio manager. In fact, if you're interested in secondary liens, you can let us know, and we can. Well, basically, once we have your membership set up, we can set up the meeting with the portfolio manager, so that you can start buying, right away. But yeah, it should be a good opportunity. It's a good time of the year to do it as well, because a lot of people are thinking about other things other than investing, and so what ends up happening is you end up getting less competition, with a lot of the things, a lot of the sales that you are looking into. So it should be an excellent opportunity here for everybody that attends, but for all of our members, we're constantly doing more, to make the training better. So, let us know. We're always happy to answer any kind of questions. So,
Yeah,
we
and
hope
this
to work with you soon.
Yeah, and this website's going to have more training than you're going to know what to do with. I mean, you can go through and review our videos and go through the home study programs and look at the auction list and everything that we have to provide. So, again, we appreciate you coming out. We'll go ahead and get that email out to you later on today that has the free gifts that we offered in the email that we sent out. And then, of course, um, the links to register if that's something that you're interested in. So thank you guys and have a great day.